All right, I'm convinced. I've seen enough. It's time to shut Jayden Daniels down.
You are Locked On Commanders, your daily podcast on the Washington Commanders. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
This is Locked On Commanders, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, now the #1 sports podcast network in the world. I'm David Harrison, your guy on the ground, covering the Washington Commanders for WUSA 9, also writing for Commanders on SI. You can follow me on X at dharrison82. I want to thank you for coming through here for this live post-game episode of Locked On Commanders. To the everydayers, those of you who come through for every single episode, a special thank you goes out to you for making it for yet another episode. Coming up on this one, we're going to talk about how Cliff Kingsbury failed the offense by abandoning the run game and exposing his quarterback, who's been often injured this year. And we're going to we're going to start all off with the fact that I am now on board. Jayden Daniels needs to be shut down for the rest of the season. Some of you have already been on that beat. Some of you have been sticking with me. And if you've been sticking with me, I don't know if you're going to stay with me, but I'm telling you right now, I've seen the light, so to speak. All that coming up on today's episode of Locked On Commanders, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day, and it's brought to you by FanDuel. If you want to be right in the middle of the action this season, visit FanDuel.com. Place your live bets all season long. I have been convinced. I was talking to Nick Ashew on the Commanders Squad episode, the live episode that we do 1 hour after every single game. If you haven't caught that, it's a pretty fun time, a little bit more, not say laid back, definitely take it serious, but a little bit off script, a little bit more loose with the conversation. It's a great time. Anyway, I was talking to Nick Ashew because Nick has been on the side of the conversation of they should have shut down Jayden Daniels before this week. They should never even brought him back this week, let alone the last 4 games of the season, these divisional matchups coming up to end the season for the Washington Commanders. I have been on the side of you need to develop him. He needs to grow. You need to give him those live reps, and you still need to do all those things. Don't get me wrong. But the NFL universe or whatever it is that's out there is sending a message to the Washington Commanders. And to me, that message is keep it up, find out what happens, right? There's another saying, right? F around and find out. Like that's another saying. Basically, that's what the NFL universe, world, whatever, is saying to the Washington Commanders is keep putting your franchise quarterback out there right now, and we're going to show you why the season has kind of gone the way that it is, right? There's an old cliche when people show you who they are, believe them. This NFL season has shown the Washington Commanders that it's just not your year. It's not going to go your way. Your players are not going to stay healthy. Injuries are part of every team. Injuries are part of every season. But I'm telling you right now, I've been watching football my entire life. I've been covering this game for 10 years. So and what I mean by that is like every single day I'm watching football. I'm paying attention to the football landscape. I have never seen a team personally, up close in person, this hammered by injuries. And Jayden Daniels, this is the 4th one. I know it's an aggravation of an existing injury, right? But this is the 4th time he has been injured this season. He's barely played twice as many games as he's been injured, and those games he's been injured in, obviously he's not even finishing those games. So if you only count finished games, he's basically par with finished games and games he's been injured in. This season clearly just not going to be it for Jayden Daniels from a health aspect. So kind of leaning on the old trainer background and coaching background and all that kind of stuff, there does come a time where you've got to kind of say and accept a little bit of defeat in order to preserve the possibility of finding success in the future. I think that's where Dan Quinn and the Washington Commanders are with Jayden Daniels as he gets injured here in this 31-0 loss, which honestly, a 31-0 loss, not even the biggest storyline because of those injuries, but not just Jayden Daniels, the most heartbreaking injury, like, as much as you want to protect your franchise quarterback, as much as you need Jayden, the most heartbreaking injury has to be that of Zach Ertz. Tight end Zach Ertz. I mean, listen, I don't want to speak his future into existence and all those things, but if you're not wondering, is that how he leaves the NFL field for the last time? Like, I think it's a natural thought process. Not 100% certain on the diagnosis and all those things, and certainly that's going to play a part into his decision that he's got to make and all those things, but certainly a player who's already up there in years, already up there as far as getting towards the end of his playing career, goes up to make a catch on a ball thrown by Marcus Mariota after Jayden Daniels had left the game with his injury, gets hit by a Vikings defender. Honestly, I don't even know who the defender was because all I saw was Zach Ertz get upended and not just hit the field, but stay on the field and immediately call for medical assistance. And then as soon as he's calling for medical assistance, all of his teammates start taking a knee, and that's never a good sign. You never want to see fellow NFL players taking knees. And then when the Vikings players also started taking a knee, that's when you know it's really bad. Eventually, he is able to kind of limp off the field with some assistance, goes to the medical tent, and then eventually he's carted off the field. Very emotional. Marcus Mariota came over to him at one point while he was on the cart to talk to him. He was emotional, being the quarterback that threw the ball, but also being just, a battle buddy, being a teammate of Zach Ertz and understanding what he's kind of going through. So that is the most obviously heartbreaking injury of the night. We'll get more information, obviously, as it comes from Dan Quinn once he gets it from the medicals and all that stuff. But ultimately, that's really the biggest storyline from this game, which is just kind of indicates just where we are with this Washington Commanders season here in 2025. A game where they get blown out 31-0 by a 4-win Minnesota Vikings team. And I understand this is a 3-win Washington Commanders team, right? So I don't scoff too hard at a 4-win Vikings team when you're a 3-win Commanders team, but you shouldn't be getting blown out by a 4-win team. I don't care what your record is. Shouldn't be happening. So the blowout happens. The first shutout, the first time the Washington Commanders have been shut out since October 20th, 2019. They weren't even the Commanders. They weren't even the Washington football team yet. The last time they got shut out in a game, that is the football that we saw unfold Sunday. They give up 30-plus points. Again, it's the 12th time, including the playoffs last year. It's the 12th time in the last 2 seasons, and we're not even done with this season yet. So we've still got a little bit left to go in that 2-season window. But it's the 12th time in 2 seasons that the Washington Commanders defense has surrendered 30 or more points to an opponent. Absolutely just not going to get it done. Bottom line, I think that's just the end of it. But again, the biggest takeaways from this game, right off the bat, the injuries. Obviously, Zach Ertz, we'll see what his future is, but it does not look good. Jayden Daniels, I don't like the injury. I don't think the injury is going to keep him out, but I'll tell you right now, like he hits the surface. Like, first of all, he had the protective sleeve on his left elbow. Then he comes out, he plays, and there was a point shortly before he ends up getting knocked to the ground on that interception where he's kind of messing with the arm. He's kind of messing with the elbow. I saw him shake it out a little bit. To me, the body language kind of read like I'm uncomfortable or I'm uneasy, but it could have also been like the sleeve's uncomfortable or the sleeve is shifting. I didn't know over 100%, so I was like, don't let me go overboard here. Then the interception happens. He gets cleared out on a block during the interception return, hits the ground, and players hit the ground all the time. And the way that he fell just inherently, it was a hard block that he received. It wasn't inherently a hit that you would think like, oh, that's going to hurt somebody, just boom, automatically. And then the way he grimaces, the way he stays down a little bit, gets off the field. I mean, they had like 5 trainers around him on the sideline. Then he goes into the tent. I don't know that he should have honestly been on the field this early in the first place. Just from a cautious medical kind of viewpoint of it. I know he can play. It's his non-throwing arm. But at the end of the day, man, like after this, I don't see how you throw him out there at MetLife. Like, how do you have him go out there and play on that MetLife turf? Like, that's just a terrible idea. And then you really want to throw him out there 2 games against the Eagles, 1 against the Cowboys. They're going for a division title. They're trying to get playoff spots, depending on what happens this week and next week. I just don't, like I said, I think there's the potential and there's the very real, palpable potential that you're going to do more bad than you're going to do good. And as a coach, trainer, teacher, whatever, when you are in a window where you can look at it and logically say, it's not a what if, logically say, there's probably more of a chance that we do bad than there is we do good. You got to hit the pause button. We hear Dan Quinn talk about doing the hard right over the easy wrong all the time. In this case, to me, that is the hard right, is shutting down your franchise quarterback who needs reps. Second-year quarterback, not perfect by a long shot, hasn't had a lot of consistent football this year. He needs reps. Got it. Shut him down, let the body heal, come back in the summer, get those reps then. That is my new stance. Every day is an opportunity for more information. Here in US Bank Stadium, Minneapolis, Minnesota, we got a lot of new information. My new opinion based on that new information is you got to shut down Jayden Daniels. Cliff Kingsbury also, by the way, failed the offense today by abandoning the run game and exposing his quarterback. Not to blame for the injury per se, but he did have a hand in exposing the quarterback. We'll talk about that and more coming up next on today's episode of Locked On Commanders, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. And this episode of Locked On Commanders brought to you in part by Aura Frames. The holidays are officially here, which means gift hunting season is already on. Hopefully, if it's not on, you need to get on it pretty stinking quick. And if you want something meaningful, personal, and guaranteed to get a reaction, Aura Frames is the gift that delivers now. It delivers after the holidays, and it's going to keep delivering all the way through next holidays and the next holidays and the next holidays until you upgrade. And then it'll continue upgrading or delivering for you even after that. It's not just something you wrap It's a way for you to share memories because Aura isn't your average picture frame. You can actually preload this thing with photos. So let's say you're like me, and you've got a family member who just had a new baby. You can take those pictures of that new baby that you've gotten of the family, of mom and dad, and all that stuff, upload those photos into the frame before you even get it to them. And boom, as soon as they open it, it's not just a present, it's memories, live and living color already at their fingertips. No apps to figure out, no setup headaches, just instant smiles. So for limited time, save on that gift by visiting auraframes.com. Get $35 off Aura's best-selling Carver matte frames, named #1 by Wirecutter by using the promo code LOCKEDON at checkout. That's auraframes.com. Promo code LOCKEDON. The deal is exclusive to listeners, and frames sell out fast. So order yours now in order to get it in time for the holidays, and support the show by mentioning us at checkout. Terms and conditions apply. Thank you once again for making Locked On Commanders your first listen of the day, and thank you for making Locked On Podcast Network the #1 sports podcast network in the world. If you're already an everydayer, you already live your team every day, now take it up a level and go ad free. We got a new venture that we've launched literally starting this week, the Everydayer Club. You get Locked On Commanders with no interruptions, ad free. You get a members only Discord access, and for all just $5 a month or $50 a year, go to lockedoncommanders.supercast.com. It's lockedoncommanders.supercast.com, or check the link in the show notes for more information. You have also a way, Locked On Commanders listeners, your everydayers, to, if you are a true diehard fan, a true Locked On Commanders everydayer, you have Everydayer all access tier of the program, which is built specifically for you. You get one-on-one text access with me, which some of you have already been enjoying. You get all access episodes. You get an exclusive newsletter and a 15% discount to the Locked On merch store, which I know some of you have been asking me about over the years. So head to lockedoncommanders.supercast.com to join the Everydayer program, unlock all access. You can also find the link in the show notes. Tons of information at that link to get all your questions answered, all those types of things. So really cool. Hopefully we can take advantage of that, and we can all interact even more than we already have. Speaking of doing more than you already have, Cliff Kingsbury on Sunday, in my opinion, failed the offense by abandoning the run way too early and exposing his quarterback to a lot of punishment and a lot of things that he probably shouldn't have been involved in. There's a 14-point swing, the turning point in the game. We're going to start off that part of the conversation with the 14-point swing here. Washington fails. 4th and 2, very first possession in the game. Minnesota Vikings run right down the field, shove the ball down the Commanders' defense throat, score a touchdown. The Washington Commanders get the ball back on their first possession, and they didn't run down the field the same way, but they get down to the goal line area and end up with a second and two at the goal line, second and goal at the 2-yard line. Pass on second down, they pass on third down, they pass on fourth down. Go for it on 4th and goal at the 2-yard line. Didn't necessarily hate the decision, kind of assumed it was coming, whether I liked it or not anyway, but I hated the decision to pass on all 3 of those plays when the Washington Commanders run game had been doing such a good job. We talked about this leading up to the game. The Minnesota Vikings defense, very good. Very good pass rushing team, very good pass defending team as well. Where they are weak, if they have a weakness, it's in their run defense. Luke Braun of Locked On Vikings agreed with as much, said as much. Chris Rodriguez on that first possession, Chris Rodriguez averaging over 8 yards per carry. In fact, from the 4-yard line, he gets a carry, gains 2 yards on 1st and goal from the 4, brings them to the 2-yard line. You need 2 more yards. Your back just got you 2 more yards. Now, I'm kind of a simple person, but maybe try to run the ball. Second down, they bring in Brandon Coleman. They try to get cute. They try to get him eligible. They try to get him a touchdown catch. Okay, nice try. It was kind of funny. Got it. It's 3rd down. They go for a pass again. 4th down, go for a pass again. Meanwhile, your running back who's starting the game, averaging over 8 yards per carry, is not touching the ball. It does not make sense to me why you go that path. What doesn't make further sense beyond that, we'll get back to that in a minute, is that Chris Rodriguez ends up with 5 carries in the entirety of the first half. Now, Minnesota Vikings had a hand in that as well because they get the ball on their own 2-yard line after the Commanders fail to convert the 4th and 2. I will agree, Deebo Samuel probably should have caught that pass, but the bottom line is he doesn't, falls incomplete. Minnesota Vikings get the ball back at their own 2-yard line. You're thinking, okay, Commanders defense has a little bit of leverage here. Put J.J. McCarthy in a precarious situation. Maybe you get a 3 and out. Maybe you even get a turnover. Maybe you get a safety, and everything kind of shifts your direction. Instead, what you get is a 98-yard scoring drive led by J.J. McCarthy and that Minnesota Vikings offense that lasts 12 minutes, 1 second, the longest possession in Minnesota Vikings history. Literally, if you watch that drive, and everybody here in US Bank Stadium watching that drive in person, in the entire history of the Minnesota Vikings football franchise, you literally just witnessed the longest possession they've ever had in their franchise history. That is how historic that turnaround was. Game ends up 14-0, so you give up the 7 points on the touchdown that you could have had. You give up 7 points on the other end after a 12-minute possession, which obviously eats into the opportunities for Chris Rodriguez to get more carries, but still, at the end of the day, him only getting 5, even in just two series. Because, by the way, after that 12-minute drive, the Washington Commanders offense goes 3 and out. Ran the ball once, threw the ball twice. So, yeah, again, you end up with 5 carries for Chris Rodriguez Jr., who finishes the game with a great yards per carry average, but only finishes with 10 touches. Like, it's just crazy to me, man. So I sent out a tweet during the game. I basically said they're taking the raid out of the air raid. And by that, I didn't mean the Minnesota Vikings. I meant the Washington Commanders. Taking the raid out of the air raid, 19 dropbacks called in the first half compared to 5 designed runs in the first half. Now, I don't know what Cliff Kingsbury is going to say when he's asked about this on Thursday heading into the New York Giants game, but I imagine it might be like, oh, we're trailing, we're down 2 scores, da-da-da-da. Listen, I understand this, and this is what coaches say all the time. Down 2 scores in the first half, you have no reason to abandon the run. Honestly, down 2 scores in the third quarter, you have no reason to abandon the run. Down 17 points in the third quarter, you have no reason to abandon the run. Coaches abandon the run way too fast. Cliff Kingsbury is incredibly willing to abandon the run way too fast. He just essentially can't help himself when he gets Jayden Daniels back on the field. He's got Terry, he's got Debo, he's got Noah. It's just too much for him to handle, I think, and he just has to throw the ball, Forget the fact that your quarterback has been on and off injured all season long, has not been able to finish consecutive games in a really long time or have really good consecutive games in a really long time. Terry McLaurin is playing his second game, just his 6th game of the entire season, because he's been dealing with injuries. Noah Brown's playing his first game since week 2 of the NFL season. Oh, by the way, they're also not getting as many practice reps as you'd want to try to build that chemistry. Forget all that stuff. We're just going to throw the ball and throw the ball and throw the ball. Now, late in the game, especially when Marcus Mariota comes in, I got it. You're down by so much. You got to try to make those yards up. You got to try to have fast strikes and all that stuff. Now, there's theology to that, too, that I don't necessarily agree with either, but that's a discussion for another day. At the end of it, the Minnesota Vikings defense giving up 7.2 yards per carry to Chris Rodriguez early. Don't take advantage of it. They expose Jayden Daniels to blitzes, to Brian Flores, who's incredibly aggressive as a defensive coordinator, and you're just exposing your quarterback over and over and over again. Meanwhile, he's battling his own demons because Jayden wants to run. He wants to take hits. He wants to go out there and be tough. He wants to go out there and compete. He's battling those demons, trying to get better at him, and you're not helping him out. You're putting the fat kid in fat camp, and you're putting the slice of cake right in front of him with a fork in his hand and a napkin in his collar, and you're expecting him not to eat it. And I just think it was a really bad decision. Again, I'm not saying it directly led to the injury in the first place. There are some things about that play specifically that we could talk about as well, and we might as the week moves on. But I disagree with the way that Cliff Kingsbury approached the game here today. On the defensive side of things, it's less schematic, more stylistic, which is a little bit schematic as well. Obviously, Dan Quinn calling the defense, preaches fast defense, preaches physical defense. I didn't see either of those things. What I saw was soft. What I saw was off, and just receivers running loose in the open like we saw, 3-4 games ago when Joey Jr. was calling the defense. It almost makes me wonder if maybe they gave Joe the play calling duties back, and we're trying to pull a fast one, and they're like, hey, we won't tell him until the game's over. And when the defense does well, but hey, everybody, by the way, Joe is calling that. Like, we tricked you. Look at how much he's gotten better. Like, it just brought me right back, and it was just incredibly frustrating because you have a quarterback here in J.J. McCarthy who, by his own coach's admission, like we actually, and I'll own this, it's fine. Actually, while I was laughing about this stuff this week, it's even in the back of my mind, like, man, while I'm laughing about this, I really hope he doesn't come out here and just drop a career game on the Commanders' heads and make it look really dumb that I'm laughing about it. But it was funny back then. It's still kind of funny to me anyway. But you have Kevin O'Connell coming out and talking about basically saying we're going to stop trying to develop him because we're doing too much. We just want him to go around and throw the football. You have JJ admitting that every time he plays football, he feels like he got kicked in the face by a donkey, which is a hilarious quote. I love the honesty. You also have him admitting that he's an overthinker, and we're not just rushing, like send 5 or 6 dudes on every rep in JJ McCarthy's face. We're not making him overthink. We're not challenging him. We're not challenging the receivers. Like, when you have a quarterback who's that ineffective, who's that inconsistent, you have a defender near him, there's a potential for a mistake to happen, for a takeaway to come from that. But when you have guys running wide open, it doesn't matter where the ball is. It's going to get brought in. That's exactly what we saw here. Again, Commanders lose 31-0. First time in franchise history since they changed their name, they have been shut out. That means Taylor Heineke's teams didn't get shut out. Carson Wentz's teams didn't get shut out. Sam Howell's teams didn't get shut out. That's what we just saw. Like, let's just call a spade, man. Like, this Jayden Daniels / Marcus Mariota / Cliff Kingsbury-led offense just got goose-egged when Sam Howell, Carson Wentz, Taylor Heineke, everybody in between and involved never got goose-egged. That's where we are. That's where we sit. Allowing 30 points 12 times in 2 years proves the defensive system severely in jeopardy as well. We're going to dive a little bit deeper into that coming up next on today's episode of Locked On Commanders, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. And today's episode of Locked On Commanders brought to you in part by Game Time. The World Cup is coming back to North America for the first time since 1994. And with 48 teams for the first time ever, it is going to be massive. But let's be honest, getting tickets is usually the hardest part to an event like a World Cup. That's why the Game Time app is clutch. Finally gives fans a real advantage when it comes to snagging those coveted seats. With Game Time, you can track price drops in real time, get alerts when great seats open, and buy tickets the moment they hit the app. It puts the power back in your hands and makes going to the World Cup a realistic goal instead of an impossible dream. You pull up the app, and the layout makes it incredibly simple. You scroll through the matchups, you compare your seat views, pick a game, tap a section, and you got your tickets loaded in minutes. No confusion, no hunting for fine print. The prices include the fees up front, which I love. There's no last second surprises, no gotchas at checkout. So take the guesswork out of buying World Cup tickets in every match, concert, or event with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create your account, use the promo code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, download the app, make your account, use the code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off. Swipe, tap, ticket, go. Game Time. Today's episode of Locked On Commanders is also brought to you in part by FanDuel. NFL Sundays move fast. Today's moved a little bit faster because of all the run game on the Minnesota Vikings side of things. One big play, though, and suddenly everything feels different, right? 4th and 2, you go for it, you don't convert. Next thing you know, 12 minutes later, the game is just a completely different thing, and that's what makes live betting on FanDuel so exciting. You're not just watching the game, you're reacting to it in real time, and with FanDuel, you can place bets as the action unfolds. Every drive, every momentum swing, every highlight moment. Live betting is best when the game starts to shift. You would like to hope it's a Washington Commanders receiver getting hot. It's the Washington Commanders defense locking down, whatever it is. But unfortunately, sometimes that kind of stuff doesn't happen. And, of course, you can build your live same-game parlays like I love to as well. So if you want to be right in the middle of the action this season, visit FanDuel.com. Place your NFL live bets all season long. FanDuel, the game moves fast, and so can you. Allowing 30 points or more as a defense 12 times in the last 2 years just says a lot about the defense. Whether it's Joe Wood Jr. calling it, whether it's Dan Quinn calling it, the bottom line is this defense has a lot of room to grow. And look, I still think the injuries have an impact. No Dorrance Armstrong, no Dietrich Wise, no Javonte Jean-Baptiste, your third best edge defender, no Marshawn Lattimore, which I understand, he wasn't great. He wasn't like the great Marshawn Lattimore that you all came to know and love or hate, depending on what side of the rivalries you were on. But he was still better than some of what they have right now on the field. No Trey Amos anymore right now. Will Harris was out for a lot of the season. Those things all still matter. But the bottom line is, man, you have to be able to stop offenses, and you have to be able to stop teams like this one especially from putting up the kind of points that they did. We're going to finish up today's episode with our burning questions, what we started doing on every post-game episode. Burning question number 1, which we will try to answer tomorrow. I'm going to look at the data. I'm going to look at the tape. We're going to try to deep dive into it. Can this offense be maximized with Cliff Kingsbury? And I will tell you that the deeper we get, the more and more unsure of this answer being a yes I am getting. Can this offense be good? Obviously. They were really good last year. They've been really good at times. This year, they've shown great potential, right? That's why so many people were excited about this game, because you look at the potential they showed just getting Terry back. It's like, well, you got Terry back for a second week. You got Jayden back. Now you get Noah Brown back. Like, what are the possibilities there? Yes, going up against what I think is actually a tougher pass rush, a tougher pass secondary or defense, but still that potential being there only to come out and lay a literal and figurative egg here in U.S. Bank Stadium today. To me, just kind of really highlighted the rigidity in Cliff Kingsbury. He's not a guy that likes to bend to what his roster is, because we've discussed this every day, as you've heard me say this how many times this year. This offense has shown it is a run-first offense. The offensive coordinator doesn't see it, and the offensive coordinator doesn't believe it. And listen, I'm a guy, I'm never going to sit here and try to tell you I know more about football than Cliff Kingsbury. I know more about coordinating an offense than Cliff Kingsbury. I know more about play calling than Cliff Kingsbury. I don't. I absolutely don't. And if he came down, he's like, okay, smart guy, as the New York Giants, you're on the headset. The offense would look 1,000 times worse. That does not mean, however, that when I tell you that this offense is a run-first offense, it needs to be a run-first offense to set up the pass, that I'm wrong, because I can be right about elements of this game. So that's the first question is, one, is it possible that Cliff Kingsbury, one, recognizes that? Two, is it possible that he is the man who can optimize, maximize this Washington Commanders offense moving forward? And we're not talking about firing him before New York Giants. Talking about moving into 2026. Burning question number 2 is the dirty dozen, the 12 games of 30 or more points allowed by the defense so far in 2 years. Proof that the system is flawed. I'll tell you right now, we're going to look at some Dallas Cowboys stuff. We're going to look at some, because I know some Dallas Cowboys fans were not necessarily happy with the Dan Quinn defense. We're going to look at some of the things that happened there, similarities, what they're happening here, where they're different, how they can change, how the injuries impact things. I'm going to try to get down to the bottom of that. It's going to be quite the undertaking. And some of these questions, I'll be honest with you, like the Cliff Kingsbury one especially, might be kind of a in progress type of thing. Like we'll update this week to week as we get towards the end of the season. But those are our 2 burning questions. I'm going to try to answer, at least in part, or at least set forward the course of answering them as early as tomorrow. That's going to do it for today's episode. Next time on Locked On Commanders, we'll jump into those burning questions. We'll hear from Dan Quinn twice before we talk again. So we'll get a little bit more information, a little bit more context. In the meantime, if you've got questions or comments, or you want to get even more from the Locked On Commanders podcast, head over to that website, lockedoncommanders.super. It's in the show notes. I'm sorry, I don't have it right in front of me anymore. It's a new program. I'll get it down, but in show notes, get that Everydayer Club access, get that all access. And for your next listen, check out Locked On NFL, 2 episodes a day on YouTube or wherever you're listening to this podcast. To the Everydayers, I see you every day. Appreciate you every day. Thank you again for coming through today. Till next time, everybody out there, if you're on about, please stay safe. Be kind to one another. We'll talk again real soon right here on Locked On Commanders, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.